When I was working part-time, the largest deduction from my paycheck was for FICA Social Security. But now the biggest deduction is for federal withholding tax. When I try to calculate the federal withholding tax with the wage bracket method, I never really have a problem. But when I try to use the percentage method, I tend to get confused. First of all, why do they have the percentage method? Secondly, will you please give me a very slow explanation, an example of how it works?
The wage bracket method is certainly easier, but we would need numerous tables to include all possible pay periods, earnings, and marital status. The percentage method consists of a group of tables that includes every possible pay period, earnings, and marital status. The percentage method is also used when income taxes are computed using a computer program. Hello, I'm Leanne Spar. In this section, we will be talking about income tax withholding. The specific topics we will be addressing are: find the federal withholding tax using the wage bracket method, find the federal withholding tax using the percentage method, and find the state withholding tax using the state income tax rate. Let's begin with a few definitions. Personal income tax is the largest single source of money for the federal government. This is a W-4 form with which we inform the federal government of our withholding allowances for our personal income tax. Many employers deduct income tax withholdings from the employee's gross earnings. That is done with the use of the Employee's Withholding Allowance certificates. The employee claims allowances here, so the employer can withhold the proper amount of tax. On this form, you indicate to your employer your name, your social security number, your address, your marital status, your allowances. Let's look at two exercises in which we find federal withholding tax using the wage bracket method. Our first employee is D. Simone. His gross earnings are $325.76 weekly. He is not married and he claims 2 withholding allowances. To find his withholding tax, we use the wage bracket method. To find his withholding tax using the wage bracket method, we consult the single person's weekly payroll period. If the wages are at least, and we go down to $320, but less than $330, so we're on this row, and we go over to the column under 2 withholding allowances, and we find $16. So the withholding tax for Mr. Simone is $16. Now we will look at employee Jones, who has gross earnings of $2,416.88 monthly, is married, and has 1 withholding allowance. We go to the wage bracket table. For married persons with a monthly payroll period, we look down the column at least $2,400, but less than $2,440. We go across that row until we come to the column under the heading of 1 withholding allowance, and we find that value to be $165. So the withholding tax for employee Jones is $165. Now let's use the percentage method to find the federal withholding tax. Sharon McDonald is married, claims 3 withholding allowances, and has monthly gross earnings of $6,420. Use the percentage method to find her federal withholding tax. Step 1. We need to find the withholding allowance for 1. She is paid monthly, so that withholding allowance is $258.33. So that withholding allowance is $258.33. She claims 3 withholding allowances, which would be 3 times $258.33, which is $774.99. We subtract the $774.99 from her gross earnings. So we have $6,420 subtract $774.99, which gives us $5,645.01. Now we go to the percentage method table. We look in the table monthly payroll period under married persons whose earnings are over $5,396 but not over $9,838. So the amount of income tax to withhold is $649.80 plus 25% of the excess over $5,396. We take her earnings of $5,645.01. We subtract the $5,396 and we obtain $249.01. We take $649.80 from the table and we add 25% of the amount over $5,396, which is $249.01, and the result is $712.05. Now let's do an exercise in which we find state withholding tax. Our employee has gross weekly earnings of $2,802.58. The state income tax rate is 4.95%. So let's find the state withholding tax. It will be $2,802.58 times 4.95%, 0.0495. So the state withholding tax will be $138.73. In this section, we have talked about federal income tax withholding and state income tax withholding. We have looked at the wage bracket method and the percentage method. You certainly will have to calculate your income taxes at some time, so now you need to get to work on some of these exercises.